My dog Gigi is my favorite travel buddy, and in just the last few years, we've been to more than 10 countries together and taken over 30 flights on 7 different airlines. And in this video, I want to share all of my best advice for how to prepare for your flight with a pet in cabin. And this video is actually part 2 of another video I posted about how to choose and book a flight for you and your pet. So if you are joining us from that video, then welcome back. And if you haven't seen it yet, then I will link it here and in the description below. And for all of my advice, I'm speaking from our personal experience traveling with her as a pet in cabin. She is not a service dog, and I don't have experience traveling with a pet in cargo. But regardless of your personal situation, you may still find a lot of these tips to be helpful. So let's get into it. My first tip about how to prepare for your flight: I recommend to start carrier training as early as possible. The sooner both you and your dog can get accustomed to the experience of traveling together, the better. Travel days can be long and noisy and crowded and uncomfortable, but if you and your pet can become used to the experience, it will feel easier each time. One way to do this is to get your pet used to spending long periods of time in their carrier. Before flying with any of my family's dogs, I spent a good amount of time with them going around Paris by metro and in taxis and in the bus with them in their carrier. This helped them get used to noises and smells and crowded spaces and other people's voices and the movement and experience of spending time in the carrier. And another thing that's also helpful is to get your pet used to going to fun activities in their carrier. Something that's very common that I see with pets is that they only experience the carrier when they go to the vet, which is usually when they're feeling sick or nauseous, or it's when they'll be exposed to a stressful situation. So they learn to associate it with not feeling well, or with getting left with a stranger, or other just generally negative scenarios. So I made a point to train my dogs by transporting them in their carrier while I was running errands, or when I was going to visit with friends, or go to a fun place like a park. That way there's no clear association that the carrier is negative, but instead they can think of it as a vehicle to adventure. And now when I take the carrier out of my closet, my dog will immediately jump right in, and she'll be excited that I'm going to take her somewhere. It has also become a safe and comforting space for her, and if I just leave her carrier bag out, or while I'm still unpacking after a trip, I've caught her going into it to sleep, or just to hang out while we're relaxing at home. We also use the carrier for road trips, and she's never in the car without it. I do this for safety reasons because a lot of the time I travel alone and it's just me and her in the car. But she's gotten so used to traveling in it and being calm and comfortable in it, so when we're on a flight, there's no whining or anxiety or any indication that she wants to get out. So something else that's been consistent for every flight we've ever taken, no matter which airline, is that we have to check in person. Because when traveling with a dog, it's not possible to check in online. Every airline we've flown with has required that we go to the desk to check in and have my dog's health and size and weight verified, along with making sure the carrier is compliant. And this is also when the documents are verified and the pet fee payment is collected if it wasn't already. So because of this, I always recommend arriving to the airport early, because you never know how long the check-in lines will be, and you will want to give yourself ample time to get through the process. And when it comes to going through security, this is another situation that can vary somewhat in different airports. But typically they ask that you remove the dog's collar or harness because it may have metal on it, and to set it with the rest of your belongings to go through the X-ray. And then you carry your dog through the detector as if it's a baby. And there have been some instances where I've been instructed to use the family security lane, which was nice. But there have also been other more stressful security situations, which I've experienced multiple times. And the first time was actually really shocking. And I think it may have been because there was just confusion or a lack of training for the specific situation for this airport security team. but I was told to put my dog in her carrier to go through the x-ray with the rest of my belongings, like with my suitcase, my tote bag, and my computer. And I refused because that did not sound safe. And then when they finally got clarification from someone else on their team who confirmed that pets are not meant to go through the x-ray, then I carried her through the normal detector as I had done on so many other occasions. So it was one of those situations where I was glad I spoke up and I advocated for myself and my dog. So just always be aware and trust your instinct and await clarification if you need to, which is another reason why you should get to the airport early to give yourself time to deal with anything unexpected. So my next tip, something that has been so helpful for us, is potty pad training. My dog is already trained to use potty pads on a daily basis, and it has been a huge convenience in general, but especially when we're traveling. Some airports have designated pet relief areas, but in the event that one is hard to find or inconvenient to reach or simply doesn't exist in the terminal that you're traveling through, if your pet is trained to use potty pads, then you can easily give them the opportunity to relieve itself on a pad in any airport bathroom stall or any relatively private area. And doing so can greatly reduce the amount of time they would have to hold it in case they're only accustomed to going potty outdoors. And just because it makes me laugh, I wanted to share this photo of Gigi inside a pet relief room at LAX where she chose to use the potty pad just out of personal preference, even though we were in the designated relief area that was so spacious and so nice. So that was about going to the bathroom, and next are my tips about your dog's food and water. I recommend bringing a collapsible water bottle with you to the airport, so you can always have water readily available for your pet throughout the travel day and throughout the flight. I know I start to feel horrible if I'm dehydrated, so I try to avoid my dog ever feeling that way too. And because full water bottles aren't allowed through security, and you may not always be able to easily find water to buy in an airport, it's just always helpful to already have your own bottle that you can refill. And I like the collapsible silicone ones that can roll up for storage, along with collapsible food and water bowls so you can serve it to your dog while you're on the go. I also like to pack a few days worth of dog food in my carry-on, in addition to the food I packed in my checked luggage. And I do this in case of any delays or cancellations. If my check-in bag doesn't make it, or if I don't make a connection and my luggage continues on without us. If we have to stay overnight somewhere for unexpected reasons, then at least we don't have to go searching for replacement dog food. And that way I will also have it readily available to give to my dog on layovers or even during the flight if she's interested in eating. And also, I always declare her dog food to customs whenever we're traveling internationally, because they'll ask if you have food products or meat. And I'll always say I have my dog's food, and they just wave me through and say no problem. Another piece of advice in regard to food is to keep your dog's diet really regular in the week leading up to a flight. Before traveling, I don't recommend introducing new treats or new foods that might upset their stomach, as this can make flying uncomfortable for your pet and for you. My dog generally eats the same dry food and same brand of treats daily, so her system is very regular and healthy, which honestly makes it very convenient for flying. And this tip also applies to the food your dog eats while you're traveling. I would be careful about giving them too many types of new treats, or even things like pup cups from new cafes you're visiting. Or sometimes dog-friendly hotels will provide their own food or treats, or even dog-specific menus depending on where you're staying. But especially if your dog has a sensitive stomach, you just want to be cautious about their digestion and their comfort, and it's helpful to keep these same practices in mind before your return flight home. And then my last tip in regard to food, I like to bring my dog's favorite treats with us on the flight, and I make sure to give them to her after takeoff and before landing to try to relieve any discomfort from changes in pressure. I don't know how similar dogs are anatomically to humans or babies, but I like to think that getting a dog's jaw moving will relieve pressure to make them more comfortable, or at least to provide a distraction. And when it comes to landing, because sometimes it can be rough and unexpected for a dog, and because they're on the floor underneath the seat in front of you, they don't have much cushion to soften the impact. So what I like to do is lean over and pick up her bag and just hold it a few inches off the floor right before we're about to land. So that way her bag is suspended in the air in case touchdown is loud and jarring. And I'll also speak to her and soothe her with my voice really calmly in case that happens to help at all. I don't know if it does, but I know that I will try everything I can do to make the experience as comfortable as possible for her. I hope that you found this video to be helpful. If you haven't already, I published part 1 of this video, which explains all my tips for choosing and booking a flight for you and your pet. I've also posted other videos about traveling and living abroad, but my channel is really about embracing your hobbies and knowing that it's never too late to try something new. So if that sounds like you, then don't forget to subscribe. I'm always happy to connect, so feel free to leave a comment below, and I will see you next time.